joining us for this webinar on a beautiful sunny day. I don't know how it is in Ontario, but in Winnipeg and Manitoba, it's quite nice. A few logistical details about the session. So we are using the Zoom meeting platform, which means that people can be seen and heard if they choose to. So we'll ask folks to stay muted until it's question period. You are very welcome to leave your camera on, though, if you want. It feels less like our presenters are talking to a blank screen, which can sometimes feel a bit weird. I guess we're kind of used to it now. You can use the chat box. The chat feature should be at the bottom of your screen typically. You can use the chat and introduce yourselves. And if you have any questions, we'll have time for questions at the end, but you can also put questions in the chat box and we'll keep an eye on that. We are recording this session and it will be emailed out to our attendees afterwards and other registrants. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you today from Winnipeg, which is Treaty 1 territory, and it's the territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I want to acknowledge how critical housing is to Indigenous peoples and our obligation as housers and housing providers to play a role and create opportunities for reconciliation, given that housing need is disproportionately affecting Indigenous peoples because of the impacts of colonization. So I'm Christina Mays-Nino. I am the Executive Director of the Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association, MANFA. I think looking at the registration list, I think all of you know about MANFA, so I won't do too much of a spiel about who we are and what we do, except to say that we have some events coming up. We have our conference. Conference registration is now open. It's October 6th and 7th in Winnipeg. We're going to have some really great sessions around everything from like board development and orientation to examples of development projects, information on supportive housing. We have a great keynote, Carolyn Witzman, who has wrote a book called Home Truths, where you can learn a lot. I learned a lot about what's working in other countries and in Canada and what's not working in other countries in Canada when it comes to affordable housing. We also have our awards, the Spirit of Housing Awards. Nominations are now open. So if you know of any great housers that you want to celebrate, we celebrate tenants, employees and volunteers, community partners, as well as leaders in housing. So you can nominate them. And we also have a project where we're supporting organizations that have land to and or properties to potentially densify those properties. We sent out a survey recently. If you are a nonprofit that's thinking about densifying your properties, let me know and I can send you that survey link because we're going to have some consultant support to get you from through the pre-development stage into the capital application stage, which we know is often a time when groups spend a lot more time and resources than necessary. I think those are the main things. And so I'd like to introduce our speakers today. The folks from Ellis Don Community Builders have been doing work in community housing for, I think they'll probably tell you a bit of history. I think it's 6 years, is that? Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Five-ish years. And so they are working specifically on community housing. They've developed some really great resources that they shared with me, and we said, let's share this with our members. So thank you to Ian and Ashwin for joining us today and for presenting. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Thanks, Christina, and thank you to the Manitoba Nonprofit Housing Association. Ashwin and I have been, we call it a roadshow. We've been speaking to municipalities and nonprofit housing associations and groups and Indigenous communities about some of the tools that I'll be sharing with you today. As Christina mentioned, this group has been around since about 2021 and really has the fortune of being able to focus on what is an obvious need across the country. So I'm relatively new with Ellis Don Community Builders. Ashwin has been around since its inception as one of the founding three members of the team, which is now upwards of around 12 or 13 people, and has seen some really good solid growth. And again, we're really happy to be doing this good work, again, much needed across the country. So maybe I'll jump right into it. So again, my name is Ian Kelly. Like I mentioned, we have Ashwin, who's also on the call here today. I'll just jump into sort of the group here. So like I mentioned, started in 2021, there roundabouts. We have delivered just under $1 billion worth of affordable housing. We like to say that we've operated housing or helped develop housing from coast to coast to coast. So from the Maritimes over to BC, and then upward up to the north in Iqaluit and Cambridge Bay, actually. So Ellis Don is obviously known as a very large construction group. Ellis Don Community Builders are a very small division within that large group, and again, as Christina pointed out, with focus on developing affordable housing. We've done a lot of work so far, but we have a lot more work to do, and we think we've developed some resources and tools to help facilitate more housing across the country. This year, we actually have 4 projects breaking ground, total of about $328 million. The first in Hamilton is about 261 units. That just started a couple of months ago, with Victoria Park Homes leading the charge on that development there. This project actually, and I'll touch on it later on, actually incorporates some of the facets of base design. And again, I'll touch on that later on. But it's something that we feel is going to be a really valuable tool in helping to provide sort of a mid-rise focused affordable housing developments. And that's really sort of the tip of the spear as to why we've reached out to a variety of groups across the country, again, municipalities, Indigenous communities, and nonprofit housing groups to talk about that, because we really do feel like that's really going to help empower providers to be able to develop these projects a lot faster and certainly cheaper as well. We have a project in Edmonton that we're starting. That's a smaller project. It's 40 units. At the end here, we also have another project here at 835 Gorham in Newmarket, Ontario. Again, very small, 14 units. But I think it's important to share this information because it's less about the size. And again, I think Ellis Don people think of Ellis Don as this big giant machine. We only do large projects, and certainly Ellis Don Construction does generally focus on larger projects. But being a division of Ellis Don, we do focus and are readily prepared to do smaller affordable housing projects. I touched on downtown Toronto, so we have 140 Merton Street here, downtown Toronto, just under 300 units. This is the Missinaibi Cree Nation are leading the charge on this development here. We're very proud to be able to help them with the development management of this important project for the nation there.
Ian,
so there, yeah.
Asher, I just wanted to add something to reinforce kind of what Ian was saying. So you may have heard of Ellis Don, big construction company. Our team works more on the development side, so we're a separate entity from construction. And our team really works directly with, as Ian kind of walked through on the projects here, nonprofits, First Nations, and upper and lower tier governments to help deliver their projects as development managers. So we have a ton of experience, leading projects through land due diligence, securing the land, zoning, SPA or development permit, depending on where you are, raising the financing. All of these projects actually tapped the AHF financing stream. We've tapped NICHI, ISK, FCM, and a whole bunch of other funding sources before. So our expertise is really setting projects up for success, even before you have a contractor on board. And like Ian mentioned, 2 of the projects there are actually with third-party contractors where we work with the nonprofit and we're ultimately trying to figure out what's best for project. And for some projects, especially depending on geography and how big they are, it's not Ellis Don as contractor that makes the most sense, and we have the kind of corporate approvals to go out and help groups procure the best team for their project. So I know there's nonprofits in the audience, so we would be akin to an SHS or a Colliers. That's the function we would kind of help fulfill in the early stages of a project. Just wanted to make sure that was super clear in case it wasn't.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. I always like to sort of highlight that point because again, I think it speaks to not that we do this work just for purely altruistic reasons. We are a for-profit division, but it's important for groups to know that we have no pressure or obligation to use Ellis Don Construction for any. And like Ashwin pointed out, 2 of the 4 projects that we see here. We're happy to invite a group like Ellis Don Construction to bid on a project, but sometimes they're just not able to be competitive for a variety of different reasons. And in those cases, at the end of the day, it's the client's best needs and that we need to make sure we satisfy. So, yeah. So in terms of the service lines, we have 2 predominant service lines. One is advisory, which really looks at all the risks associated with a potential project. Our job is to highlight what those risks might be and find mitigating factors around them. We do that through a primary mechanism being pre-development reports. And for those, maybe what I'll do is if I can get a list from Christina, I can reach out to each of you separately after this meeting and provide you what some of those reports look like, because I think they're an excellent way for, in particular in the nonprofit housing sector, to be able to, again, identify all the risks with a prospective project, find the mitigating factors. And we also do a really good job of evaluating a variety of different scenarios which may benefit or hurt the viability or success of any given project. So certainly from an advisory standpoint, we work with a variety of municipalities and nonprofit groups to be able to provide that internal expertise as a result of the multitude of development management experience that we have. Here's what some of the reports look like here up top here. And again, I'm happy to share these with you all at the end of the conclusion of this meeting here. I think at this point in time, it's important to note another tool or resource that we've provided through our website. Again, I'll provide the link after. One of the main components, obviously, of any development in determining its feasibility or success is the financial analysis around what the project is going to cost, where the funding is going to come from, and certainly the financial elements of pre and post operation period. So on the Ellis Don Community Builders website, there we have a completely free pro forma tool. I think it's been our experience that a lot of times, again, we're talking to the nonprofit housing sector. Some people, the primary concern is just getting a handle on the cost. And for that, you could just go to a general contractor and get sort of an estimate on what a typical development might look like. But this allows you to sort of have the flexibility to look at a specific site using Google Earth. You map out your site property lines. You can drop a building on there. You can determine how many, what it might cost for a 3-story project, for a 5-story, so on and so forth. Different unit mixes, and with some, I don't want to say it's too granular, but it does require some information to be input because it does generate a really robust report at the end of once the inputs are provided. So it goes certainly a lot farther beyond just getting a cost of what a development might look like. And in the absence of having maybe some of the granular details around a particular project, there's some really good guidance as to when somebody is filling out this report, the input, putting in the inputs that will generate the report. It's got some really good details that again can provide a detailed report. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. It is completely free, and really want people to be able to leverage that tool, just to understand what a project might look like. We call it a sniff test for a project. So please take advantage of that if you can. So, development management is a pretty broad term as to what we do. It really is. Once a project's determined that it's feasible and that there's confidence that the funding sources or grants can be obtained, we act on behalf of the owners or housing providers to execute on the performance or delivery of the project. So it's really everything from soup to nuts. So from your pre-development to managing the funding applications, dealing with CMHC, providing the financial modeling, stakeholder management, procurement. It really is everything that needs to be dealt with as a group would be going through the development of any particular project. These are some of the groups that we've done development management for over the years, or more recently, I should say. And happy to answer any questions around development management if anyone has any questions there. But one of the, like I mentioned at the top of the meeting, one of the reasons why we've been reaching out to provinces and municipalities and nonprofit groups is to talk about a new tool that was just recently shared across the country called Base Design. And Base Design is a mid-rise focused, we call it a jumpstart for housing providers. And the genesis of this whole tool was basically, if we dealt with nonprofits, for example, they had interest in developing a project, a housing project, they would all start at ground zero and then go through the entire process with nuances, but generally the same sort of process. It would take roughly the same amount of time, and then you get to the same end. And there was two fundamental challenges. One, it would take a pretty considerable amount of time to get to the point where they would be able to apply for CMHC funding. And what you need to have to get to that point is about 60% of your design detail drawings completed, such that you can get a Class B estimate. And that could be, it could be 6 months, 8 months. We've talked to people that it's taken even longer to get to that point, and a pretty considerable amount of money up front to be able to get to just that point, to find out, to get to a point where you can get the Class B estimate, apply for funding, and then still have no guarantee that you're going to get the funding. So Ellis Don Community Builders thought, like, there must be a way that we can shorten that time frame and do it cheaper. And that was sort of the genesis of Base Design here. So I can't call it an off-the-shelf product or design, but it's as close to off-the-shelf as you can reasonably get, while ensuring that the flexibility is in place to be able to meet a variety of climate, geographic changes across the country. Obviously, it needed to be flexible enough for unit sizing, for building footprint sizing changes, and the like. So out of the gate, it meets all of CMHC's AHF requirements, which is a mandatory for energy efficiency and accessibility. So from an energy efficiency standpoint, it meets Tier 2 NECB. That's a requirement for the AHF funding applications. And accessibility. All of those design elements are baked into the design. We, again, in keeping with the flexibility of this tool, it is structurally agnostic. So you can go with concrete, you can go with steel, you can go with volumetric panelized steel. There's every option is flexible. It doesn't hinge on one particular style. And again, in certain climates, what may work in southern Ontario, may not work in northern Saskatchewan. So we needed to make sure that the structural elements were factored into this original design. And again, the overarching benefits is that somebody could effectively take this kit of parts, this is what it looks like, and it's sort of akin to Lego or modular but doesn't hinge on modular from a structural standpoint, that it only uses one system. It's a flexible system, but same sort of concept. Like Lego blocks, you can slide your units in, whether it's studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and then accessible options for all 3 options there. They're interchangeable. Just some examples of a floor plan here. And here's what some of the units look like here. And if you look at the actual sizing here, you'll see that the common elements here, they're roughly the same size. You have a slight difference in your living, dining sort of central area here. This will be the same as this over here, is the same as here, this side here. The bedroom on this side is the same as here, is the same as here, and here. So again, it's a sort of a block concept there, with affordability being baked into all the design elements. Again, affordability is key in order to make sure we achieve a successful end product. I'm jumping ahead here. Again, I have to find another word for flexible, but I have to bust up the thesaurus, I think, after this meeting. But again, what you get when somebody buys a license, and I should add this as well. We are offering this. There is no obligation to use Ellis Don Community Builders as development managers to be able to access this licensable design tool. We would love to be, if somebody wants to go ahead and they're looking for a great development manager, we would gladly put our hands up for that opportunity. But again, our interest is in making sure we're providing tools that are beneficial to the housing market across Canada. So in light of that, this kit of parts design package can be purely licensed independently. Some groups, a lot of nonprofit groups, have their own procurement process. They have to go through a tendering mechanism. So this could be purchased as a standalone license. And if another group were retained as development managers, or the development management were to be done in-house by that group, we don't need to be involved thereafter. Again, we'd love to be, but we just want to make that known. It's perfectly able to be used independently of Ellis Don Community Builders, and certainly, as Asham pointed out at the top, there's no obligation to use Ellis Don Construction. So just some configurations here. 5-story, again, flexible in terms of the aesthetics, the cladding options. There's cement, fiber, stucco, stone, aluminum. A variety of different design elements can be used there, as long as it meets the energy requirements outlined in the energy model report, which again, the energy model report forms part of the package that you get with the license. Then a variety of cladding options are available there. And you can see some examples here of 5-story, 61 unit options up here, and then an 8-story down here, different cladding options here as well. And one other element that may not apply necessarily to a lot of the nonprofit sector, but we like to share this, as we've been in conversations with the federal government around, and I'm sure a lot of the nonprofit groups have questions, or as we do, around Build Canada Homes. So a few years ago, Ellis Don Community Builders took the position that housing should be delivered much like the infrastructure projects are delivered, like hospitals and courthouses and the like. It's a human right. And, in light of that, we wanted to treat housing as similar to we do like hospitals and things like that. Ellis Don were sort of instrumental in the formation of the P3 model. And So we thought, why couldn't we develop housing much like we do those types of projects? So for a multi-site development opportunities, largely with municipalities, we are starting to have conversations and have executed on certain projects where we act as the developer, and that we design, construct, and finance generally multi-site developments with certain municipalities and government agencies in order to sort of help deliver housing to scale. So I like to show this slide here because it sort of shows you the differential between some other countries that are sort of having to really grow their housing sort of at scale. Netherlands and Ireland, they have 75% of their social housing, 87%. Here we are at 11% here. So we think this is where there's a real need to develop more housing, certainly from a social standpoint, and a real opportunity. And this just sort of shows you the traditional models of delivering housing here, and certainly for the nonprofit sector, the biggest challenge that we've heard from a lot of nonprofit groups is that equity exposure, and the amount of upfront equity that's required to put into a project without any guarantee that the model is going to maintain through that process, because it can be a lengthy process, and there's that invariably some interest rate exposure as you move through that process. So certainly shortening that time frame becomes a real key goal there. Just some projects that we've delivered at scale. One we did fairly recently under the RHI Rapid Housing Initiative for the City of London, where we had to deliver roughly about 150 units at 3 different sites. And you can see here these projects certainly had elements of base design in them. They're not purely base design, but you can see they're along the same sort of ilk as base design here. So we were tasked with having to deliver these projects within, I believe, this 12-month period, and we were successful in delivering within 12 months, which, all things considered, from a construction development standpoint, is very, very quick. But we certainly have the in-house expertise, and Ellis Don Construction were involved in these 3 projects as well. Yeah, and that's about it. I can stop there. I know that's been a lot of information, but that's Ellis Don Community Builders in sort of a nutshell. We hope that we know there's going to be an appetite for base design. We think it's a great opportunity for nonprofits to get a jump start on their housing development projects, or affordable housing projects, and we really hope that we can help deliver on some of those projects, or at least sell the licenses to be able to allow people to get that jump start on the projects there. And the last point I'll make is there's a lot of questions around the Build Canada Homes initiative, and again, we probably have a lot of the same questions as a lot of the nonprofits do. But we have been in conversations with Build Canada Homes. Ashwin had the great fortune. He's a highly connected guy here. He was able to get some FaceTime with our new housing minister. So we're very fortunate that way, that we do have some good inlets with the government agencies to be able to get some information. But we do have a lot of questions around it. But there's a lot of interest from them on our housing as infrastructure model that I mentioned in the meeting as well. And the overarching sentiment that we've received so far is that we really want to make sure that people, ahead of knowing exactly what the program details are, that the federal government isn't going to swoop in and just take over all development mandates from the nonprofit housing wing. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be a there's going to be a lot of reliance on those groups to be able to deliver. So what we're saying now is when those program details become available, when the incentives or the fund details do come around, you want to be shovel ready. So understandably, I think there's a lot of people that are holding off right now and not maybe not jumping in with both feet, which is again understandable. But we really do want to encourage people to don't stop. As we like to say, any delays on the front end become exponential on the back end. So when that program does come live, you want to be ready to go and as shovel ready as possible. So if you have any questions or anything, we would gladly love to help out in any way we can. And unless Ashwin, unless there's anything else you have to add there, is there anything I missed or anything you need to jump in with?
No, I think you covered up pretty well. Nice work, Ian.
All right.
I think we're ready for questions if there are any from the group.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? I had one. I know you mentioned that the base design has designs that are that would qualify under energy requirements for the CMHC funding, the Affordable Housing Initiative. What about FCMs, like the Sustainable Affordable Housing? Like, could it be passive design, or is that would take some work to get there?
We've done design briefs on what it would take to increase what we have now. So what we have now means baseline CMHC. To jump that up to passive house, we've done design briefs on like what changes you'd have to make to like wall insulation and potentially equipment. And then alongside with some costing that we've done on what that premium would be. As of right now, Base Design on its own would not meet those requirements, but it's pretty flexible. Like it's just a matter of tweaking a few levers, and you'd get up to that point. I'll put it out there. What we've done, we've ran the numbers on a few projects here in Ontario, admittedly, but to hit the 80 TUI energy metric that FCM has required in the past has been pretty cost prohibitive. Like the premium to get there has usually been more than the $5 million grant portion that they provide. So we've opted not to go that route for a few projects, but I know other groups have found success with it. So it's really market specific as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Christine, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
It's Lori. Sorry, my camera's not working properly today. Just wanted to know, does this whatever it is, the build something, does it work with as an addition to an existing building? Like, could you use it to add on to an existing building?
Good question. I mean, everything's possible, I guess. I don't think it would be the most efficient use of it, but with base design, the layouts themselves, like if you were looking to make an addition to a building and you're trying to figure out how to size your units and everything else and the strategy on energy efficiency, you could still take elements of it. Right now, though, it is a standalone building as itself. We haven't really contemplated. If you attach it to an existing building, there's probably structural implications, mechanical, electrical implications as well that aren't contemplated right now in base design.
Okay, thank you.
So you want to do some work in advance to figure out what the best option for an addition at your building, Lori, would be before you sort of look into the base design.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And Ian mentioned like the advisory work. Like we're happy to put up our hands. We've done a few retrofit renovation projects. So if that's something you want us to take a look at, even at the high level, we'd be happy to share some ideas on what we think, at least, if you like, Lori.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much. I know how to find you. I'll get it. I can find you through Christine.
Perfect.
Other questions? I was also curious. I know I saw it when we met. You showed the map and said, you haven't worked on any projects in Manitoba. I know one of the things that we always that folks in Manitoba will talk about is that need for those local knowledge can be important when it comes to development consulting. So I'm interested to hear, and you've done projects in Iqaluit, which is not local. How do you work with a group if you're working outside of where you're based?
Yeah, great question. I think we have, honestly, I think we have one of the best like development management teams, especially in the non-market housing space in the country that we've put together. A good part of it, we're pretty familiar with like development processes across the country. So, development permit versus SPA and some of the nuances there. So totally agree with you that, local knowledge is 100% key. But we've been able to kind of build the plane while we fly it, so to speak, on a lot of our existing projects, where once we get in, we get down and dirty with the details, get familiar. And then honestly, like I'm thinking of the northern projects, like we acclimated, quote unquote, in no time at all. And our clients generally also had some local knowledge from the housing sector space, just saying, okay, this is what's been going on in the market that they could backfill us with. And we kind of provided the development horsepower behind them.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I have a survey sort of scheduled to go out right away to attendees if you want to give us feedback, but we'll send a follow-up email with the recording of this webinar. We'll also send some of those resources that Ian mentioned. I did put in the chat box, I had the link to the free proforma tool that Ian presented on. But I think there'll be some other resources to share. So we'll be sending those out afterwards. And you're welcome to share the webinar and information with friends and colleagues. Thank you to Ian and Ashwin and to everyone for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate it. Let us know if you need anything.
Yeah, and thank you. It was very interesting. Thanks, Christine.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Ashwin and Ian.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Bye.
Okay.